Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter, and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about Volume 1 of Asadora. This series is written and illustrated by Naoki Urasawa, a true veteran in the manga world. Other works by him include Monster, 20th Century Boys, Pluto, and Billy Bat. But yeah, he really has done a lot. I think he's been active since the 80s, so he's been around for a long time, and a lot of his works have really been consistently very well received from what I've heard. I've been interested in reading something by him for a long time, but I haven't really until now that I've gotten to read this first volume of Asadora recently. So that's been fun. I did, however, watch the anime adaptation of Monster back in 2015, if I recall. I watched that, and I've heard that it's like supposedly really faithful to the manga. But yeah, I haven't actually read any other works by him. But anyway, this first volume of Asadora I read a couple weeks ago, just kind of to see if it was something for the podcast, perhaps. And I want to just sort of tell the story sort of how it went down. I was gonna read it before I was gonna fall asleep, basically, and I was already pretty sleepy when I started reading it, so I only expected to read maybe one or two chapters. But I ended up getting so invested and captivated by everything pretty much right off the bat that I ended up reading the entire book. And I think this is one of the best volume ones that I have ever read. It's up there with To Your Eternity for me. So I have some high hopes for this series. Hopefully not too high, but I do have some high hopes, and I think the series has great promise. I remember I messaged you pretty much right after I'd read this for the first time, and I suggested we do it for the podcast, and I tried not to set your expectations too high, while I know I was still praising it quite a bit. But I hope you still enjoyed the read, even though maybe I set the expectations kind of high.
I have never read anything by Urasawa. I had heard of Monster and some of those other names you mentioned. But I'm not much of a manga reader until recently, obviously. But not even the anime Monster have I seen. So excited to read something from a person who is highly regarded.
Yeah.
As for the first volume of Asadora, yeah, I guess the expectations were set high by
I'm sorry.
Your praise,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, I didn't go into it thinking like, okay, this is gonna change my world or something like that. I really did go into it with just expectations that Petter really enjoyed it, but for me, I wasn't blown away or overly impressed, but I thought it was really good.
Nice.
And enjoyable and enough to keep me invested is what I'll say. I think if you remember, since we're comparing to Your Eternity, I may have felt similarly there as well, where I really enjoyed what I read, but I wasn't like in love with it quite yet. But I was intrigued where the story was going.
Oh yeah.
But then come a few volumes later, I'm pretty sure I became incredibly invested.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I remember that.
maybe something will happen with Asadora in that same way.
I hope so. I mean, I feel like the continuation of the series has a lot, I guess, to live up to, kind of, just because I at least absolutely love this first volume. I was blown away by it. So yeah, maybe it'll be hard for the rest of the story to keep to, I guess, well, for me to love the rest of it as much as I love this first book. But I'm keeping my hopes up that that the rest of the series will keep me just as invested.
Maybe washed away is a better term than blown away. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
Because of the content.
Yeah. Yes, I was.
Boo! Get off the stage!
But I guess on that a little bit, like just touching on some of the stuff that aren't, well, because basically for anyone who's new to Umami Manga, we generally make it through the discussion by talking about each of the characters one by one, kind of dividing the conversation up that way. But I wanted to just touch on some stuff before we get into the characters that isn't necessarily related to any specific character. And I guess in this case, it mostly involves the potential kaiju stuff that's going on, kind of behind the scenes here, supposedly, as well as that storm and the flooding and everything. The manga starts in the year 2020, where we see Tokyo, supposedly being attacked by that kaiju, threatening the city, as well as the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Which
quite ironic.
Yeah, little did Urasawa know that when he started writing this story in 2018, that something else would come in the way of that uh, Olympics.
What will happen to the 2020 Olympics? Well, it'll get delayed a year.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I mean, it's not funny, but it's a little funny, I guess, in hindsight.
Right.
But pretty quickly after this brief scene in the year 2020, we move back in time to 1959, where the story kind of starts properly. And in that year, there is this typhoon that hits the mainland of Japan. And this is a real storm that happened back then called the Isewan typhoon. I think in the West it's gotten the name Typhoon Vera. But anyway, this was or is the strongest and deadliest typhoon, at least on record, to have ever hit Japan.
Wow.
And I think even like comparing it to other natural disasters, like earthquakes and stuff, it's like I think it ranks third in like the deadliest natural disaster in Japan. I think it's only topped by 2 earthquakes that have happened at other points. Supposedly 5,000 people died in this disaster, with hundreds more gone missing, and almost 40,000 people were injured, and 1.6 million people became homeless. So it was really, really devastating. And I mean, I really think the manga does a pretty good job at portraying that. Obviously, we only see kind of one city, but it was just such a big catastrophe.
Yeah, definitely was devastating. It seems like,
Mm.
and I had no idea that was a historical event.
Yeah, I think it was September 59.
It did seem very well thought out, or like it could have happened for sure. So yeah, I find it interesting that I mean, I guess because it's such a big event, it's something that you can pull from, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So that's interesting, that historical accuracy there.
Yeah, and also the implication, I guess, or at least the fictional implication here about this storm seems to be that it was caused by a kaiju.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still very mysterious, but that seems to be the implication. So that's very interesting, I think.
Now that you've mentioned this historical aspect to it, I wonder. I mean, it's a very interesting and kind of bold take. I wonder if he's going to, through the years, like take some natural disasters and put some sort of kaiju spin on it.
Right, or other disasters, like maybe not necessarily just natural. I don't know.
For example, the earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan in 2011, which I was there for.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean that was devastating, and I remember it just really shook Japan emotionally. And I wonder, would it be kind of too soon or out of touch to have a story where there's kaiju implications in it? I'm not sure. But it's also kind of a bold way of going about telling a story, potentially taking historical events in Japan's past and putting it in a fictional context.
Exactly. I do always or usually enjoy kind of combining like historical fiction with, well, supernatural fiction or fantasy kind of. I do like that mix.
Another thought I had, since this is post-war Japan, but knowing that this event was more historical, or was historical, it kind of puts this theory, though it doesn't give much credit to it, at least, is that since it's post-war Japan, I wonder if these kaiju, or this kaiju, has come about because of the nuclear explosion.
Right.
Which is similar to, I believe, how Godzilla was formed.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, yeah, like to really just kind of pay homage to the original kaiju, kind of, and especially since it's kind of I don't remember when Godzilla is from exactly. It's like 50s. At least I think it's at least sort of close in time to when this story starts.
I think it's around there. Yeah.
Yeah, like around there somewhere. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. But yeah, anything before we get into the character discussions?
Yeah, so I mentioned how I was in Japan when the 2011 earthquake hit. I was actually in Hokkaido at the time, which is the most northern island, Japan. I was on a train, but I kind of slept through the earthquake. We didn't really feel the effects up there. What we felt was more of the flood, the tsunami, and that hit Tohoku, which is the northern part of Honshu. So it's near where Hokkaido is, so we got a bit of the after effects or just small side effects, but they were still pretty big. And I remember just crossing some of the bridges and seeing how much the rivers were just flooding over, and not just how much water was there, but all the logs. Like there
Oh.
was logs filling up the river, and then when the river or the water finally receded, there was just logs all over the place.
Oh.
So the fact that you have this flood and all of these lumbering logs, which I'm now that we have this historical context, it's like, well, maybe this actually happened, where houses were destroyed by some of these lumbering incidents.
Yeah.
And anyway, just looking at my own experience, it's like, wow, I can really believe that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, and while I researched this typhoon, I did see some pictures from like the aftermath of it and like the destruction it caused. It's really, I mean, it looks a lot like the like Urasawa's like drawings of it here in the
Hmm,
manga, and it's so sad to see.
man.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have for now, but
Mm.
I think I have a couple more questions about the kaiju, but
Right.
I think that could be more so in the character discussions.
Sounds good. Then let's talk about Asa Asada. Amidst all this disaster, we find our protagonist. And I think it's amazing how, even though everything looks so bleak throughout really most of this volume, she's able to keep her chin up and really focus on what's important when no one else can. And to a degree, I think she learns some of it from Kasuga, a little bit about, I guess, to her what it means to be a hero, and I think she looks up to him. But I also think that she just had a lot of, like, she had this air of hope to her even before meeting Kasuga, I think.
Not just hope,
Yeah, not just like positivity, optimism, and like stuff like that. Um,
bravery.
bravery for sure. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, yeah, but I think it's just beautiful to see uh, everyone come together, especially by the end of this book, thanks to her motivating everyone
Hmm.
and everything. Like she is really such a strong driving force, and she really is
Yeah.
kind of really a worthy protagonist who actually sets the wheels in motion and gets things done. And yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But she is often forgotten by people. We learn because of coming from such a big family. They are 12 siblings, with the newest one being born. There's 12 of them,
It's
and
like talk about the baby boom.
yeah, yeah. um,
Yeah, I feel bad for her where, she feels so lost within her own family that, even if she's kidnapped, like they're not gonna care. I'm just one of,
yeah,
so many, and
right,
they didn't even give me a good name or things
yeah,
like that. Which, I mean, the names that are of her siblings, I guess are good. I'm not a Japanese native, but I really like Asa. I mean,
yeah,
Asa's it's pretty simple. It's just morning,
right.
but like I don't know. I think it's a nice sounding name, and maybe nicer sounding than some of her siblings' names.
Yeah, I mean, in my ears, it is. I think definitely. I think it's a wonderful name,
Yeah.
and it was actually something I could kind of relate to as well, because I remember, especially when I was like around 12, like Asa's age here, I was not particularly happy with the name that I have, and like kind of in a bit of a similar way actually. So I could totally relate to that. I don't feel that way anymore, luckily, but yeah.
No, that's good. Well, I'm glad you feel more comfortable with your name. That's good. Uh, I guess maybe it doesn't help that her last name is Asada, which depending on the kanji could be literally morning field.
Oh, okay.
So her name could be, morning field morning.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
well, in the Japanese, because you start with last name first, then
Yeah.
first name.
Right, right.
Um, but I mean, it could Asa could be a different in her last name could be a different kanji. I'm not entirely sure, but
Right.
at least I'm just guessing that if it's the same word, it's the same kanji.
Yeah, I mean
So
that's fair, yeah. And regardless, I think it sounds like a nice name. It's really like a name you would expect from like an artist, like a stage name perhaps or something like that.
yeah, actually.
It's like too perfect, but it's cute. I loved how assertive she was in a lot of instances throughout this book.
Hmm.
Like we got to see it first when she got the doctor to go help her mom who was in labor, and also when she chased after the burglar, and she got the rice balls done and everything. Like I guess I kind of talked about how she got things done a lot, but just that assertive side of her is a lot of fun to see, especially from someone who's so young and who's able to affect adults as much as she is able to do throughout this book.
Agreed. And it didn't come off as, unbelievable
Right.
or annoying.
Mm.
Because sometimes I feel when writers try to make their, a younger person seem, smart or, like an adult, they end up like going too far. Like how would a young child like that be able to do that kind of a thing, or
Right.
they figure that out, or something like that? But everything that Asa did was, really remarkable. But also, yeah, I can see what is she supposed to be, 9, 10 years 10 years
12,
old?
I think.
Oh, it was 12. Excuse me. A 12-year-old. Yeah, I can totally see her doing that, and it doesn't change how amazing it is either. And I just think her personality is great, and it's something that's likable and not annoying.
Yeah, and like because you can really see in several instances throughout the book, you can really see or you really feel how much of a child she is as well. Like yeah, she is
Mm-hmm.
she takes charge and everything like I said, which is maybe not what you'd expect from your average 12-year-old, but yeah, I agree with you. It's still believable, and especially with how there are so many like lines and things that she does which are totally childlike, like how when she for example, when she flies into the air for the first time in the plane, and she feels like she's a bird, and she's like totally like exhilarated by that.
Mm-hmm.
And this song that she loves so much, like seeing her excitement whenever she hears it and everything like that,
That's true.
is also like so much of a childlike thing. Yeah, I love that.
So I guess speaking of that song, I decided to look it up, or try to search for a song that maybe she would be listening to. And I literally just typed in 1959 Because I Love You, not expecting to get a quick response, but the first thing was this song called Why by Frankie Avalon.
Ah.
I was unsure if exactly it was it, but I couldn't find any other songs that had the similar Because I Love You
Oh yeah.
in it. So here, I'll put it in chat so in case you want to listen to it.
Yeah, I would do one too.
Apparently, this song hit the number one spot in the Billboard in 1959, or was it 1960? Maybe both. I don't know, but it was incredibly popular at the time.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's it explains why she would be so interested in it.
Yeah, it's such a cute song. Hearing it now, I can totally see why she would like it so much.
Yeah, it went to number one on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 chart. When it published, it was okay. Well, maybe she didn't listen to this song.
Oh.
I did, because I didn't realize what date.
Oh.
So it was published the week of December 28, 1959.
Uh-oh. So maybe
So
this isn't maybe, or either this isn't it, or Urasawa took some creative liberty and changed things up a little bit.
yeah, maybe.
I mean, the lyrics are right there though, and like it matches.
For the most part, yeah. So I'm not sure. I looked in the comments. And I did find one person type in Japanese. I don't know if they were Japanese, but they're like, "Is this the song that Asadora listened to,
Ah.
or the Asadora's main character listened to?"
Were there any responses to that comment?
Some person answered in English. I guess so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can buy that. Unless we ever find anything that is more fitting, I guess, then
Yeah.
I'll believe it's this, or that it's supposed to be this.
I wonder if we'll ever get that answered or not. You
Yeah.
know, like,
I think we will.
right? Because it seems, she brought it up, ended up bringing it up twice.
Yeah.
That would mean before this huge storm happened, but still, it feels like something that would be in her mind, and maybe something that brings her happiness after this terrible tragedy,
Yeah. Right.
potentially.
For sure. Yeah, I really hope she's able to find out what song it is and who performs it and everything. Because that's obviously today, that's a little bit hard to kind of relate to that, but man, the 50s were rough, man. For this reason, not anything else.
Curse you, radio DJ.
Oh. But yeah, moving on. She is a surprisingly fast runner, it seems like.
Yeah.
I don't really have much on that, but it's funny. Like, or I guess it's also possible that Shotaro is just really slow. But I don't know. I like to think that it's Asa who is just really fast, without necessarily trying.
Well, the thing is that he ended up winning the race in their school, but only because
True.
Asa just stepped out. But he would have got second in that case. So he has some speed to him, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
But Asa just runs circles around him. It seems like,
Yeah.
you know. So depending on how fast they're actually running, like, is that a hidden skill for her? Is that something that maybe she could potentially, I don't know, really grow into?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a plot point that's going to be focused on it all going forward, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and I hope it's kind of brought up again in some way.
Right. I mean, I feel like at least it sort of establishes, or it seems like it establishes, I guess at least that she has, or that she is naturally athletic to some extent.
True.
And actually, since I just mentioned that, I'll also mention another thing that I was going to mention a little bit later in her discussion about when she, flew in the plane for the first time, based on just how happy she was, how amazed she was by that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and how, yeah, just seeing the look on her face and everything in that moment, just it really appealed to her. It seemed like so based on that, and also based on her connection to Kasuga now, and the way she looks up to him. I feel like there's a pretty decent chance that she, or at least as the years go on through this manga here, that we may see her aiming to become a pilot, perhaps, moving forward through the years. And if that is something that she is going to go for, potentially, then having a good physique and being athletic to some extent, I think, is a good thing.
I mean, because Kasuga is the peak physique, peak male. You
I mean, he's
can't get any more
he
tone than that he is.
he may have looked better back in the day, when he was at his peak, because he is on the older side, sort of ish, I guess.
That's what it seems to imply. Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, no, I agree that there was something there, and maybe it is just the wonderment and amazement of trying something new and exciting, like flying. But that one spark could lead to a passion for the skies in a way.
Right. And I guess if this is the direction that it's going to go, I could totally imagine the fact that they kind of made a deal out of there being two seats and both seats having controls. I could see that perhaps as foreshadowing to something like, let's say in the next volume, Kasuga becomes too weak because of the wound that he has. If something like that ends up happening while they're in the sky, maybe Asa will have to take control of the plane, and like maybe he will instruct her or something. And if something like that happens, then I think I'm gonna even more double down on her wanting to become a pilot later on.
I kind of hope that doesn't happen. I mean, because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That sometimes when writers will make like the children do something that they shouldn't physically be able to do, like landing a plane. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's believable for a 12-year-old, but
At least, I mean, if he can still instruct her, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
maybe.
To be fair, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a thought just because I got this idea that maybe she'll become a pilot, then I wanted her, or part of me wanted to see her do maybe a little bit of flying here.
But I think that in the future, like maybe flying will be important. Like if we actually interact with these kaiju in a way, maybe she'll have to fly in a plane to talk with them or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
hey, maybe.
and I say talk with them because we see that she's hearing some sort of voice coming from the ocean. Like that's probably the most interesting thing about Asa right now for me is the fact that she's hearing these cries that no one else seems to really hear or at least be able to comprehend what they are.
Right.
Kasuga says it's just the wind, but Asa's pretty convinced that no, that's not it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's expounded on. I'm sure it will be, and I'm just curious. Is the monster trying to communicate with her?
Oh yeah.
Is she just happening to hear this? And not communicating is just like, oh, we're best friends, or
Yeah.
you are the chosen one, or something like that. Just more so that it's just speaking or making noise, and
Yeah.
Asa can understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a fascinating idea. I kind of just imagined it as being sort of that because she is a child, she
Oh,
notices it easier than adults because I think when you're a kid, I think you're more perceptive to some things than you are when you get older.
interesting.
Or at least that's just how I imagine or how I've understood it, or kind of based on my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a kid, I could see like all the bugs on the ground, for example. I don't pay attention to that as an adult anymore.
Yeah,
And I don't know if this could be a similar thing like that, perhaps. But yeah, just a thought.
it could be. And something else that came to mind just now is maybe this is a child's way of interpreting these historical events, like, being in the middle of it, and then she just,
Mm.
her imagination is making it seem like this, like it's something from the sea, or you can hear something. But then again, we literally see a claw print.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what Kasu's gonna say, or like what the adults are gonna say after seeing that. Like, are they just be like, well, that's weird. Let's move on. Like,
Right. Yeah.
but that's another thing. Why in this story, how would they not? I don't know. Where did this monster go? Like, there's a footprint, and then it just did it. Where did it go from there? Did it disappear? Did it just walk away? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, very mysterious. But when they got out and saw that whole site, when they came out of the
Mm-hmm.
cargo container and saw the flooding, the destruction, and everything, I think that's the part of the manga that got me the most emotional, especially the kind of specific part in that scene where Asa didn't really seem to understand that this was the same place as before, just because it looked so different now. Like
Mm.
nothing looked the same. And
Mm-hmm.
like seeing her that way, so confused and distraught, like that really, really got to me. And well, I guess something good that came from it though was how kind of through her despair at that moment, she sort of helped Kasuga to regain his courage and take initiative. But it was such I it was a great scene, and I did cry when I read it.
Yeah, it's a powerful one. Urasawa was able to capture some great emotion there.
Yeah, it really did.
Instead of crying, I should take action.
Mm,
That's something that Kasuga taught her, but I like how she quickly picked up on that and really just realized the importance of the moment and the responsibility she was willing to accept. And I just admire her great bravery.
absolutely. Yeah, she's awesome.
And I just really like the first line of the story. Is the first line? It's in the very first few pages. A story of a nameless girl
Mm,
and the fearless, graceful life she lived.
yeah,
Uh, so I'm excited to see more about that nameless girl.
absolutely.
Although apparently she has a name.
Right. Yeah, no, I love the idea of having the story that's supposedly gonna just allow us to follow along with Asa through her entire life, more or less.
Hmm.
So that's super exciting. In the, I guess, quote unquote present day, 2020, she should be 73 years old if I'm not mistaken.
Granny.
But anyway, in the airplane, Asa noticed a bag that
Hmm.
probably belongs to Kasuga, and she asked what it was, but never got a response to that.
No, that bag is.
Or
I'm pretty sure that bag is the guy who owns the airplane. Like, that was the bag he grabbed. It's like, I gotta make it to
oh,
where was it? I forget.
right.
Hiroshima. I gotta make a business trip to Hiroshima.
Oh, that
I double checked and it's the same lock and everything.
okay. Great. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, I see.
So I don't know why they would bother to show that bag.
Must be something important.
Right, right. So
Hmm.
yeah, but what? Like,
Yeah.
I have some more thoughts about where he could be going with that bag, but I'll save it for the Kasuga section.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Well, actually, I have nothing more on Asa, so I'll be good to move on to him if you wanna.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right, let's talk about Haruo Kasuga then. A very sad character,
Yeah.
pretty tragic, but as I said, like he does kind of find his courage again thanks to Asa, which I was a beautiful moment. And I think kind of the biggest flaw of his character, which I mean I love character flaws. I mean I think that they are what make stories and characters interesting and captivating. But I think in his case, his biggest flaw is how he struggles with communication. I think So that kind of when he doesn't know how to express himself with words, he resorts to violence, as he did, for
Mm.
example, to his coworker who was kind of a douchebag. Um,
Yeah, like
and
what the freak, man?
yeah, like in that instance, and now he resorted to like criminal activities because he probably struggled with communication and kind of connecting with people. I think that's sort of where his flaws lie, which just kind of make things difficult for him.
So, interestingly, a lot of veterans, and I can't speak to, you know, European culture, but at least in American culture, there's a lot of veterans who feel tossed aside and kind of lost after war. They find it difficult to get acclimated back into society. And I wouldn't be surprised if some Japanese war veterans felt the same way, and maybe Kasuga is a case like that.
Right.
His talents were almost wasted being away from a plane,
Yeah.
and yet they were no longer in a situation where they were even really allowed to fly planes in the same kind of way. But obviously, they still have planes, so I don't know why Kasuga didn't try to get into flying a charter plane in some way. I mean, I guess again maybe that's just veterans not being treated fairly or respectfully. I mean, in America, there's such an issue with homeless veterans and just people who, when they get out of the military, they are really at a loss of what to do.
Mm.
It's quite a culture shock.
Right.
So I could feel like, or I feel like maybe Kasuga went through something similar, along with his, like you said, the personality of maybe not having great definitely not having great communication skills.
Right. Yeah, because he's really such a nice guy. Like he he's just had a rough time
Yeah,
and just made him desperate.
not the best of luck.
Right. And we learned that he had a wife and son who both sadly died in the air raids during the war.
That hurt me. I was
Yeah.
like, ooh.
Especially since like at some point before he tells Asa that, she asked him if he had kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he just responded no at that time. He didn't feel like opening up more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, it's very sad. But something I appreciate about this character is that while he is really proud about his ability at flying a plane, which I think it's he's justified in taking pride in that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't seem to take any pride in how many lives he took during the war.
Right.
Like that's not what he's boasting about. He's only boasting about his ability to fly the plane, and nothing else kind of.
Yeah.
And I think that's respectable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there were some Japanese who would go about talking about, oh, I killed this many people, or and then I'm sure I know there's Americans who did unfortunately who would talk about, oh, I killed this many Japanese, and they would use terrible slurs and whatnot.
Right.
My grandfather, he's a product of his time. He still has. It's really funny because I've lived in Japan. My mom speaks Japanese. She's not Japanese, but obviously, but her father, my grandfather, is just somewhat racist against the Japanese.
Ouch.
Now he's not like discriminatory per se. I mean, he's rather old, but he'll throw around slurs about specifically about the Japanese.
Huh.
And he just doesn't quote unquote trust them. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience talking with him and opening his eyes to their culture and how they're human beings. Just we're all human beings,
Right.
and in his heart he knows they're just people too.
Yeah.
But it's just those years of propaganda,
Right.
and what he grew up with is just really hard to shake away sometimes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is hard. Yeah.
Right.
And here you are 2 generations later consuming all sorts of media from Japan.
Except I speak Japanese.
Yeah,
So,
that too.
I lived in Japan.
Yeah, and you have 2 YouTube channels where you basically just do Japanese stuff.
It's
Basically.
true. And not to say my grandfather is great. He's a great man. Just at least when it comes to Japanese, he still has some issues. But we've had our Japanese friends come over and visit them, and he's been super hospitable.
Okay, that's
very
cool.
fine. Never talked bad about them, even behind their back when they were gone.
Hmm.
It's just when he ends up watching the war films or things like that, that's when the old grandpa comes, or him when he was growing up, and when he was in the military as well.
Right.
Anyway, the whole point of all that was to say there are the kind of dark sides, or both sides had issues where people were doing that kind of body counting in a way.
Yeah, right.
But I think there was also people like Kasuga who, they were there for their comrades, and they were just there because they were demanded to be there. They had no choice really, but they made the best use of their time, of their skills, and I respect Kasuga for not seeking like fame and glory, but really just seeking his calling in life.
Yeah, and wanting to get everyone back in one piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But he definitely belongs in the sky. Like, as he says, he belongs behind a cockpit.
Yeah. And yeah, he did steal that plane, and in doing so got shot.
Yeah.
And that does have me worried. I mean, so far he seems to be holding up all right. Even though he is bleeding, he doesn't seem too affected right now. But I worry that this injury may become more troublesome in the next volume.
Yeah. I definitely worried. I hope it's not too serious or life-threatening.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, he's stolen a plane. He's shot. I don't know. When this is all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if he did actually see some jail time. I mean, I think what he did is admirable.
Right.
But I just don't think these police officers are going to be understanding at all.
I mean, he did say he would turn himself in after this.
Yes, but that was about the kidnapping and the robbery.
Right. True. But still.
And I feel like they had kind of gone over that hump where Asa's like, you don't need to do that. Like, I won't report you or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like they'd gotten over that so that they could go, not return to normal, because they can't after this, really.
Yeah.
But they could, not have to really touch on that at all. But the fact that he stole a plane now, I think that's going to get some jail time. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he will be tried for those other things too.
Or maybe he'll die before he can get into jail.
Do you really think a shot in the arm is going to kill someone?
If he
though?
keeps on,
if
he keeps bleeding,
blood.
I think that's sadly maybe possible.
Yeah. Good point.
Because he is dripping.
Yeah. What's in the bag?
Yeah. yeah, really. What is in the bag?
So I'm guessing it's that rich guy's bag, as we said.
Exactly. It must be.
Is that also going to cause problems? Not only is he stealing the plane, but is the rich guy or business tycoon guy going to claim he tried to steal the contents of the bag? Who knows?
Right. It seemed like it was something very important, at least to him.
Yeah.
Like something he needed to get delivered quickly.
Now, while crackpot theory is, what if that has anything to do with the kaiju?
Oh. Okay.
Like maybe that's summoning it for some reason. It was a stupid idea.
Hey, I mean, this is why I like having you on the podcast.
This is why I keep you around, kid.
This is the only reason. No. No, that's funny. Or I mean, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe we're laughing now, but maybe you're right.
Never know.
I know in other manga that we've talked about, I know we've kind of laughed off certain ideas, not really even believing in them ourselves, and then don't you know what they end up happening in the manga? So
it's true.
It has happened before.
I was there.
Well, anything else on Kasuga?
No, I think I said everything.
All right, then let's talk about Shota Hayata next.
So I'm confused about his name. So Asa calls him Sho, which is, okay, that's his nickname.
Yeah.
His brothers say Shota, and his dad says Shota sometimes. But there's one instance where he says Shotaro.
Yeah, and I assume that's the full name.
So I looked up online, and the Wikipedia, or the fan, or whatever, my anime list has Shota. So what is it? I don't know.
Maybe he's referred to as Shota more often, and maybe that's why they chose to go with that name on my anime list, maybe?
Maybe.
perhaps. I just feel like if his dad, like, cause especially in the moment when his dad does say Shotaro, I imagine
Hmm.
that's kind of like a very kind of a big moment, quote unquote, when he's like, "You are the chosen one, my son Shotaro." Like I feel like it would make sense for him to use the full name in that instance, even though it might not be used most of the time, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I guess it's worth looking into, or like keeping an eye on, I guess.
Keeping an eye on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for the time being, we can call him Shotaro. That's
Or
fine.
or
And
Sho or Shota, like anything really. It's fine, I think. We'll know who we're
apparently.
referring to. Yeah. But anyway, it seems like he and Asa have been friends for a long time. He is supposedly a year older,
Hmm.
and he is being pushed by his family to represent Japan in the 1964 Olympics, which is only 5 years from where the story's at right now.
The youngest in a line of aspiring Olympic runners.
Yeah. The question is he really that into it? Is the question, or is he just kind of
Yeah.
pushed into thinking that he wants that, or you know, because he is receiving a lot of pressure from his dad and brothers.
Hmm. It could go either way. And then you had the whole drop of blood that hit his face, and they're like, "Oh, it's a sign of from
Yeah.
God," kind of a situation, or from the gods, or however he
Mm,
puts it. And that whole, I mean, it was funny, but also it kind of makes me worried that maybe he feels even more trapped. Like everything is making him become this Olympic runner when maybe he just, like you said, doesn't have that passion.
mm,
I could see it going that way, or maybe he takes it as a sign, it's like maybe I really can do this, and he goes gung ho into it all, and
right.
maybe he does find enjoyment, fulfillment, which is the good ending, I guess.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And his mother has passed away. Something that we learned about him or about
Mm.
their family as well. But yeah, there wasn't too much, but still definitely I think there's potential, and I imagine he might be a character that we kind of get to follow along with as well as Asa grows up. He will grow up too, and maybe he will stay in the story and also grow up into an adult and maybe even an old man. We shall see.
Oh well, I hope so. I think they being Asa and Shotaro have a pretty good friendship,
Mm,
and I kind of want to see, and I don't know, see that more, because there's not a whole lot of other kids Asa's age in the story right now. So it'd be nice to have another one. I don't know, just kind of give another perspective, I suppose.
yeah,
And also I am kind of invested in what's happening with Shotaro and this whole, Olympic training situation.
absolutely.
Along with Asa being faster, like I wonder if that will come up again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you may disagree, but I think it's an interesting aspect.
No, it is. I do agree with you. And I mean, since the story has been, well, historical so far, having this typhoon being an actual typhoon in history, and well, the song that we talked about might not be completely timing wise historically accurate, but it's still, I mean, basically, close enough, I guess. I can't really complain too much. Um, I wonder if we'll see the Tokyo Olympics in in 5 years. Uh, Whether or not Shotaro is in it, I think it would be cool to
Hmm.
see, another historical event happen in the story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the fact that we already have understanding that 2020 is in the story,
Yeah.
I think that we will see other historical events.
Yeah. Especially actually the 1964 Tokyo Olympics makes a lot of sense to feature in the
Hmm.
story, especially since it like the 2020 Tokyo Olympics was mentioned like in the first couple pages.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get there eventually. I wonder at how fast of a pace the story's going to move through the years. Because obviously in this book there wasn't really any progress like that, or like it didn't really move forward a lot.
Mm-mm.
I wonder how much it's going to do that moving on, like how fast it's going to go through time.
Mm. Good question.
If we go by, 'cause I looked into some of Urasawa's other manga, and a lot of them, or at least the ones that ended up being kind of long, they're all like around 20 volumes, like give or take.
Hmm.
So if this one ends up going above a certain amount of volumes, which is it's already I think at 6 volumes in Japan, I think there's a decent chance that it'll go up to 20-ish volumes before it's over. So moving through like 60 or so years of time in 20 volumes. Well, yeah, I feel like that's probably a good pace, I suppose. Anyway, anything else on Shotaro or Shota?
No.
Then let's talk about Kinuyo. She's got a tough facade, but Asa did eventually kind of manage to break through it, and
Definitely.
once she did, Kinuyo was very, very sweet and helpful.
Yeah. It's almost like she didn't want to be considered a pushover kind
Right?
of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I mean, depending on what happens to Asa's family, I'm pretty sure that Kinuyo is going to be kind of an important figure in Asa's life going forward. I mean, she's already kind of committed Asa to helping her out for a long time.
Yeah.
It seems like, in order to pay off these onigiri, these rice balls.
Exactly. She owes her. Yeah. I hope that'll turn into something fun or interesting. I mean, I think. I mean, if it does become something, I'm sure it'll be good. 'Cause, I mean, honestly, at this point, I have so much faith in Urasawa's ability as a storyteller. Part of me is like not expecting necessarily to follow all of these characters for a long time, especially since we're gonna move through time supposedly up until Asa is like 73 years old. At which point in time, like the adults that are in the story right now will probably be dead. But still, there is definitely time still for characters like Kinuyo to remain in the story for quite a bit. I love how when she defended Asa and Kasuga from that police officer or whatever he was.
Yes, I love that.
That was such a great moment for her.
It really was. I mean, like, come on, guy, read the room, dude.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, yes, in normal circumstances, this is not okay. But we're in a crisis, sir.
Yeah, come
on. It's like, jeez. And you know what? And I feel like people would actually be like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, not just a police officer, but the Karens of the world.
Yeah.
They would be, excuse me, you can't park here. You know, it's like, come on.
I mean, he was a Karen. Let's face it.
He was an Officer Karen.
Yeah. But yeah, it made for a great moment, especially after having seen how she was kind of against the idea of helping out to begin with, and then seeing her, you know, make a move to step up and defend them. Like that was, yeah, it felt so good.
Absolutely. So she's originally from Tokyo,
right,
and moved out here for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm interested to understand what that reason was. If it was either, you know, following the person that she met in Tokyo, who she heard the word, what was the word?
Delish.
Delish, yes.
Was how they translated it, at least.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be. I don't speak Nagoya Ben, but it maybe yeah. Anyway, so maybe it was she was following that person, or maybe she found someone like a love interest type of situation, didn't work out. Like I don't know. I'm interested to see exactly why she ended up out here.
Absolutely. Is that all on her?
Yeah.
Then I really only have one other character, and it's not even really about this character. He's very minor. Dr. Tanaka. And it's really just about a line that he said in the beginning. He said that people have been disappearing.
Oh, I missed that.
He kind of said that just kind of quickly between some lines. And I wondered if that's going to have any bearing on the story moving forward. If that's relevant as a whole. I'm not sure, but it just caught my eye and made me wonder.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. I think I forgot about that because the story went in kind of a natural disaster direction.
Right.
That this whole like, oh, so you know, something is stealing people or people disappearing, like that whole notion just kind of went out of my mind. But yeah, you're right. That is interesting. Why even mention that?
Yeah, because my mind for like first I was like, okay, maybe because as I said about
I know why. I know why. It's because she gets kidnapped in this episode. It's supposed to be kind of a foreshadowing of that.
You think so? I mean,
yeah. I think so. I think that's the reason why.
I mean, I guess I could see it, but we know that this was the first time that Kasuga did anything like that.
Yeah, this is the first time Kasuga did it, but I think it was just, you know, kind of a foreshadowing what was going to happen.
Could be, yeah. It might just be that, because my mind went to the disaster itself, in which we know that hundreds of people went missing, but this was before the storm came in, well, at least fully. So I wouldn't think all of those people would have gone missing before the storm even really arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think your explanation is still the best we got.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's more to it, but
Could be
I
interesting.
feel like that maybe that's what he was trying to go for.
Yeah, it may just be. But yeah, did you have any other character you wanted to talk about?
No character per se, but I do have just like one thing about her family.
Yeah, yeah.
When I read the chapter 8 title, the claw marks, I was worried the claw marks were from her family.
Oh.
like they pick up the rubble, like some of the wood, and they can see the claw marks of people trying to get out.
Oh shit.
Right, that's super dark, right? But
yeah.
that's happened in the world before.
Well, yeah, you're right, man. Oof, that would be.
So that's what I was. That's what I was worried about.
Oof. Dang.
But clearly, it was actually a giant, like, footprint.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily.
Luckily, oh, thank goodness.
Well, yeah. But I guess that is maybe all for the characters, or?
Yeah.
Then moving into predictions, and I guess since we were just talking about Asa's family, do you think they're alive?
Oh, it's so hard to say.
Yeah,
but the fact that you brought up the historical aspect of all this, oh man, I think they're dead now.
Oof.
I think
for that reason specifically.
Yeah, because, like you said, like hundreds of thousands of people went missing or died, and I just think there's just so many logs over houses and flooding, and nobody that they can see in that area is standing on top of the houses like the other people were.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a good sign.
It really isn't. Yeah, I think most things seem to point that they sadly may be dead.
I mean, hey, I would be super happy if they were alive. Not that I really care about them, but I care about Asa's feeling.
Yeah, right.
Maybe some siblings will make it out somehow.
Exactly, yeah, maybe part of the family makes it and some don't. That's possible.
Yeah.
Especially since, well, I don't think the mother was giving birth in their home, was she? Or was she?
I don't think so.
At least she wasn't at the dinner table, at least when they were eating.
Oh, it sounded like she was at someone else's house.
That's right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could have been like the next door neighbor or something. So maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I guess they were split up a little bit.
Yeah, old lady Oshioka.
Oh yeah.
Yoshioka.
Right.
So whatever that is.
Yeah.
So are you also the same thinking that they are dead?
Yeah.
They won't be able to save her family.
I think so, sadly. Like, that's the most likely thing, I think, right now. And I think, I guess, for the narrative itself, I guess it could be interesting for Asa's growth, perhaps. Or, like, as some type of motivation / thing to make her character feel a little deeper, perhaps. As horrible as it is. Just to see how she deals with that, I think, would be interesting, actually, because sure, having your home destroyed is big in and of itself, but if she would have her whole family, or at least a part of her family, taken away from her, that would kind of challenge her even more. And I think it would be interesting to see how she would deal with that. Just because, as I said at the beginning, I think she does really embody hope and positivity and optimism and those sorts of virtues. So with that, I think it would be especially interesting to see how she would deal with this, like with a tragedy this big.
Yeah, I agree. So something I was just thinking about now, that was something that I only really started thinking about as we were discussing, is the whole idea that is this part of her childlike imagination, that this kaiju aspect of these natural disasters.
Right.
Because you look at this footprint, and that could be pretty big evidence. I mean, no one would be able to miss that, right? But is Kasuga reacting to the footprint? He doesn't say anything. Like, he's looking in that direction, and he looks surprised. Yeah, because there's a ton of logs, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe he is seeing the footprint, but he doesn't say anything. It's only Asa.
True.
So I don't know.
That's funny, actually. I will say, on my first read through, I think I had similar thoughts until we saw the footprint at the end. Just because there's the point where Kasuga kind of corrects, or he tells Asa that the sound is not an animal or a monster or anything. It's the wind. Like, and like, because
Yeah.
when that part came out, I was like, okay, she's just imagining things. That's fair. It makes sense.
Ah, uh-huh.
And that this whole thing might just be that, including the what we see, like the kaiju in the flames in the first few pages.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't know. The footprints in me made me kind of forget about all of that and felt and with the footprint I felt like it was all real. But you may be right that this may just also be how she perceives it. Like the footprint may not actually be a footprint. Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting.
I'm hoping the next volume, because there's no way she's not going to talk about it or like try to get, people's opinion on it.
Yeah.
So I feel like the next volume will get a better understanding if at least Kasuga is aware of the footprint.
Yeah. Oof. I could see it becoming kind of unclear as well. Like the story might not give us like a straight answer. Like even in terms of Kasuga's reaction, it might still remain unclear even with the next book, perhaps. Like I could see this being maybe something that the story kind of dwells on, and like this whole uncertainty. Like, is it a kaiju thing or is it not? I think that could be interesting in and of itself.
But like, how do you brush that off though?
I don't know.
Unless Kasuga just is like, no, there was nothing like that there, or it didn't look like that to me, or something else. Like, or he says, yeah, that's that was weird.
Right.
Like, I don't expect them to suddenly become detectives and go out to the ocean or try to find the thing, or whatever. But I do kind of expect them to touch on it a little bit and then just go about, well, we got to find my family, or
Right.
we got more things to deliver, and then they move on the story from there, and that's just in the back of their minds, if it's real, or if it's not, if it's just her imagination or supposed, then just in her mind.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway,
No, but that is really interesting.
I guess along those lines, why did the monster appear there? Was it just random? Was it looking for Asa? If it's calling out, I mean, I don't think that's that kind of story. So it just goes up all back to, why is Asa able to hear this, and exactly what is this monster here for if it's the real deal? And so my prediction is that after all the discussions, I'm thinking it is her imagination, and that she is trying to understand these natural disasters in a way that is a coping mechanism. Or I said a prediction, but now I'm like, or the story does mention kind of the a fearless, nameless girl. Maybe these things are actually the acts of kaiju, but no one else can realize it except for her, for whatever reason.
Right.
And that's why it seems like she's not credited, or she's not as like famous as she should be.
Right. I do agree that those are two very good options. Obviously, it's one or the other. It's not going to be both. But yeah. I'm just intrigued by the idea that it may all be in her head. And actually, like one which really strange idea I had when I started reading this book, and I think I had that thought until we saw the footprint. My thought was that what if Asa becomes the kaiju that we see in the first pages?
Oh.
I mean, I guess it's still possible, but it's also really weird. Like, I don't even know how I got that idea.
Interesting. So is this a magical girl manga at the very end? Like magical girl kaiju?
Yeah.
Or magical kaiju girl.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's another crackpot theory, I suppose, but
it would be pretty fun if that was the case. But maybe not the same kind of story that is being told here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But yeah, other predictions. Well, I already said like my idea about Asa becoming a pilot eventually, perhaps based on what we saw in this volume. I think that would be fun to see, as well as the possibility that Kasuga may maybe die. Like worst case scenario, he may die. But at the very least, that the injury will affect him in some sense. That's something I really expect in the next book.
It would be a fitting end if, after finally getting into the sky, he passes away.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! You're right.
after they land, so nothing bad happens.
Right. I mean, or we get to the thing where maybe Asa needs to maneuver the plane under his instructions or something. Although then he can't die until after. That's fair.
Right.
But well, I guess we shall see. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen. But it would be so like if he dies and her family dies, that's a lot of loss that she would go through if all of that would happen.
So if Asa's family is dead, who do you think is more likely to be her temporary guardian? I guess I already know the answer, but I'll just throw it out there anyway.
I mean, if it's
Kasuga or Kinuyo.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I would say Kasuga first, but if he also dies, then it would have to be Kinuyo, I think. If Kasuga is around, then I think it would be him, though, more likely.
I think it's going to be Kinuyo either way, actually, because I think she's just more in a stable situation, and she's already kind of...
That's fair.
Made a pact with Asa to work for her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure Kasuga would still be in her life, but he's not in a great spot financially anyway. No, I mean, and nobody is, I guess, in this right now.
I mean, that is so true. Yeah, so much property damage and everything. Like everyone's suffering here, even though you're alive and uninjured. Like you're still suffering a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess if he doesn't die, then as you said, like chances are he will end up in jail. So I guess even then he couldn't take care of her.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess Kinuyo does make the most sense in that sense. However, I also like the idea of Kasuga taking responsibility for her. Just
He's a
because
good man.
He is a great man, and he also, he lost a son. And so I think it could be nice for him to have a child again, maybe, or to take care of a child again. But anyway, I don't have any other predictions. What about you?
Neither do I.
All right. Well then, we got through this discussion.
Woohoo!
One of my last things I'll say is I absolutely love the story and the characters in this volume, if I hadn't made that clear already. And Urasawa's art, I also think look absolutely great.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite aspects of his artwork is the details in the characters' face expressions. I think that really appeals to me a lot. As well as also, like, there's a lot of details in, like the backgrounds that he draws that is fun to kind of analyze and just look at. It's very pretty and very, great details overall.
Yeah, some of his faces kind of look like, caricatures in a way. Except for Asa kind of looks like, I don't know, pretty well done.
No, I like because I get what you mean about kind of caricatures, like Kasuga, for example, and I guess Kinuyo as well. But I think it's done in a way that I like it. Because there's other manga and anime where
it's bad.
No, I understand, but there are kind of caricature drawings in other manga and anime where I don't really like it that much. But these ones I do really like because they still feel real in some sense, even though they are exaggerated in various ways. But yeah, I mean, Asa is just so cute. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I also loved, like, speaking about the art a little bit, I loved the way he drew, like, the eye of the storm as Asa like imagines it. Like not only is it a fun way for a child to imagine that kind of imagery, it's also a really good artwork.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And it's definitely kind of as we were saying before, the imagination of a child,
Yeah.
When you hear the word eye of the storm,
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the book or anything like that before we get to the ending bit of this episode?
No, I mean, I guess since you repeated your praises, I will just briefly say that I'm excited for the next volume.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that the story will continue to be interesting, but I'm not, like, in love with the story as much as Petter. But I'm still invested.
Great. So. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm so excited to continue this. We will have the next episode out next week. However, after that, we may not put these episodes out every single week and or whatnot. Since we have a lot of other manga that we cover here on the podcast, and well, since I'm talking about that right now, we also cover Kaguya-sama Love is War, To Your Eternity, Spy Family, Free Run Beyond Journey's End, Vinland Saga, Kaiju number 8, and Jujutsu Kaisen on this podcast. So man, it's really getting up to a lot right now.
It is.
But for anyone who's interested in listening to some of our other episodes, those are the other manga series that we cover. And we're on YouTube and as well as on just the regular or other podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and stuff like that. So you can listen to us pretty much wherever you want to. And we also have a Discord server, an open Discord server for anyone who listens to our stuff and who'd like to join there is welcome. We talk about definitely all the manga that we cover on the podcasts, and also really anything weeby or unweeby. We talk about pretty much anything in there, and it's a really fun and nice little community with great people, I think. But with that all said, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 2. Bye bye!
See you later! Oh.